Ayan, magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Welcome muli sa ating Canon Law 1-on-1 with Father Jigs Rosalinda. Hello, Father. Good afternoon.
Hello, Father Luciano. Magandang hapon. At sa lahat po, magandang hapon sa inyo.
Yan, salamat po. At sa inyong lahat, una sa lahat, i-share nyo ito kasi marami tayong matututunan sa episode na ito. Sa isang bagay na ay medyo malapit sa ating lahat kasi ang usapan, hindi na yung Universal Church, we will talk about the Diocesan Church, which is malapit sa ating lahat. No? And I think we'll have a lot of questions and a lot of learnings mula sa mga administrative structure of the diocese. And so, ito po yung topic natin ngayon, the Diocesan Synod na pag-usapan na. So, we'll talk about Diocesan Curia, Presbyteral Council, and Finance Council. So, yun. Ito po yung mga Diocesan Councils na pag-uusapan natin. So, share itong episode na ito. Start a watch party. Go to group chat. Share to all your friends in group chat, especially yung mga ka-ministry ninyo sa simbahan at pag-uusapan po natin. And if you have a question, don't hesitate and magtanong po kayo. Okay, so reviewing Father Jigs, we are talking about administration within the diocese, right?
Yes.
Itong mga councils na pag-uusapan natin ngayon, consultores, Presbyteral Council, Finance Council, at saka yung Diocesan Curia. Ano po ito? Part ng administration or part ng pastoral pati? Ano bang saan mo ilalagay itong mga councils na ito?
So, in the governance of the diocese, ang obispo po, although he is the one who has full, immediate, and proper power, siya po ay tinutulungan ng iba't ibang institutions or institutes at saka councils, no, sa kanyang trabaho bilang head ng particular church and diocese, no. Ito nga po yung sasabi ni Father Luciano, you have the curia, you have the different councils. Very clearly po ang Diocesan Curia, obispo po, concerns with or deals with the governance of diocese o yung mga administrative matters ng diocese. Ito yung, kumbaga parang, ito yung kanyang members of his cabinet. It is, he governs the people of God, the diocese, with the help of the curia in terms of administrative matters. Now, for instance, you have the vicar general, we have the episcopal vicars, you have the econom, you have the chancellor, you have the judicial vicar. So ito yung mga bagay nito. So you're dealing with administration and judicial matters. So ang kanilang function po, yes, pastoral sila. Everything naman is covered under pastoral. But ito yung meron sila mga specific and proper administrative roles in the work of governance. Sa kabilang dako naman, meron kang in fact, you also have a pastoral council. Meron ka ring finance council. Meron kang presbyteral council. And then you have also a college of consultors. These are bodies, no? Or council bodies of groups of people that give consultative or advisory help to the diocesan bishops, no? Bishop.
Okay. So let's go one by one, no? Yung unang tanong, yung lugar kung saan, halimbawa, kung sa gobyerno mayroon kang Malacanang, no? Sa diocese, ano pa ang lugar ng administration? Is it the obispado or the chancery? Or it is the same?
Okay. Yun pong word na obispado means ito yung lugar where you have the offices of the diocese, no? In terms of administrative offices. In fact, meron din ang pastoral office sa atin, no? In our case, no? When you say chancery office, it refers only to a specific section or portion doon sa curia o yung obispado ng diocese. Kasi within the obispado, within the administrative what call this, let's say departments of the diocese, meron ka diyang judiciary, ayan. So you have
so yung chancery is only one portion.
Yes. The chancery is where communications are sent out or where they are made, and that also receives these communications coming from outside. So you're referring to the parang secretarial siya. So communications ng kanya ano. Then you have also the what we call treasury or the finance department. Marami pang iba, meron kang within in our case sa atin yung obispado also holds the offices for the pastoral ministries or commissions.
Yes. We have the archives.
Yes, the archives, no.
So and the office of the bishop himself.
Yes.
So yung seat of administration is the obispado.
Yes.
Okay. In our case, Obispado de Novaliches, what we used to call chancery, and now we call Obispado de Novaliches in Good Shepherd Cathedral. Is it always at the cathedral, yung obispado?
Not necessary naman. Some places nakahiwalay talaga sila. Depende sa depende sa setup ng diocese, depende sa accessibility ng lugar sa mga tao, depende din sometimes dun sa available properties, ano yung convenient para sa lahat. There's where they set up the chancery, the obispado or the offices of the curia.
Ano ang roles or positions na required by law in every diocese? At ano ang sabihin natin ano ang optional at ano ang obligatory na mga positions within the obispado?
Okay. Within the obispado, ang mga mandatory or compulsory offices are the office of the Vicar General. Mandatory yan. It is also mandatory to have the judicial vicar. Kasi nasa canon law kailangan, because the bishop exercises also his judicial powers, either personally or through the judicial vicar. It is also important, mandatory to have a chancellor. Dati po, last week, napag-usapan natin that the office of chancellor can be held by not only by clerics but by the lay faithful, pwedeng madre or pwedeng lay. The office of the finance officer is mandatory. As we said last week, it can be held by a cleric or a lay person. Meron siyang qualifications, no? Ano pa ba? Ang episcopal vicar depende sa need. So pag may kailangan,
so yung mandatory is vicar general,
yes,
chancellor, economus, and judicial vicar.
Yes, oo.
From these four, which one needs to be a cleric, or all of them can be a lay person?
No. Hindi pwedeng maging vicar general ang isang lay.
Okay.
Hindi pwedeng maging episcopal vicar ang lay.
Okay.
Hindi pwedeng judicial vicar ang lay. He must be a priest, a presbyter, or sacerdos. Hindi pwedeng maging ano pa ba? So the rest, yung econom and chancellor pwedeng lay.
Okay, I
or
see.
consecrated persons.
I see. Another question. Why Novaliches, for example, has two vicar generals? Many dioceses or most of the dioceses has only one vicar general. Ano po yung sinasabi ng canon law about the vicar general? Is it a unique figure na dapat isang tao lang, or pwedeng 2 or 3 vicar generals?
So as we said, yung office ng vicar general is mandatory. As a general rule, there is one vicar general in a diocese. Pero the law also allows more than one vicar general depending on the size of the diocese and the pastoral activity of the diocese. No? So, in our case, we have 2 vicars general. Pero ang powers ng vicars general is equal to the bishop-in-law. So, general siya over the entire diocese, over all types of activities, over all people. So, we are trying to avoid yung ating distinction of a vicar general for pastoral and vicar general for administration, kasi nga that seems to be defeating the whole idea of the word general. Para siyang specific kung magiging
Yes.
in that sense, magiging siya, magiging parang episcopal vicar siya. So I think we're also in the process of clarifying ano yung mga areas that there is need for an episcopal vicar. So one who acts in the name of the bishop, having ordinary but vicarious power.
There is a question from June Diamat. Mayroon po ba pakialam ang government of the Philippines regarding financial of the money collected from donations? So mayroon bang sabihin natin mayroon bang obligation to report collections of financial status of the diocese to the government?
Since we are talking about this, no, let's make a distinction regarding between first is income and diocese, from legitimate income from sources like rents, from property, rent ng property, from sale of something like that, and from voluntary offerings or donations. Dapat ma-distinguish natin yon. Yung mga income coming from, kasi may mga, the diocese being a judicial person, no, in law, can engage in activities that earn money. So yan,
Yes.
ang gobyerno meron diyang say sa taxation. Yun namang donation per se, hindi siya to be considered as income. So medyo, I think this is becoming an area of contention right now. Mukhang the government is looking into the possibility of taxing yung mga donations given to churches. Not only the Catholic Church but also church in general as well. So kasi maraming mga gusto nilang mag-impose ng taxes dito. Pero as of now, when we're talking of voluntary donations coming from the faithful, parang hindi siya taxable quote-unquote income ng mga dioceses. So, pero all the rest, like for instance, meron kang bookstore, taxable yan. Meron kang income from rent, taxable yan. Meron kang, in fact, yung mga bingo social, may tax din yan eh. Mga raffle, in fact, you have to, I think, from what I understand, no, may mga yan, subject to tax yan. So, may mga ganon. So, i-distinguish lang natin ano yung income ng diocese. So, this is under temporal goods. This we will tackle this siguro in
another, yes.
Yes, in the future episodes natin.
Yes. And even just to share, kasi I used to be the director of Caritas of the diocese, and even as a non-profit, you have to report to the government your financial status with corresponding mga resibo and everything. It has to be really. So you say how much money entered into donations without being taxable, but you have to report the money that entered and how did you expend it. And so you need to pass it through the board of the foundation, and also you need to report to the government with the necessary receipts and everything. So there is an accountability also to there. Right? All right. So from these offices in the chancery, so you said that the vicar general is like the alter ego of the bishop when the bishop delegates, or it's already by the function of vicar general, he is automatically the alter ego of the bishop? And if it is the alter ego of the bishop, to what extent and in what matters?
Okay. So yung sa canon law, we distinguish between ordinary power and delegated power. So no, sa delegated power, ito yung mga power binibigay in this case sa cleric, sa pare or sa ano. That is not based on an office. Since yung Vicar General is based on an office established by the church. So hindi siya delegated power. Ang mga example ng delegated power, ito yung mga, for instance, the faculty to hear confessions of deserved sins, yung mga pinapadala bilang isang delegate ng Santo Papa sa isang diocese, sa isang conference, sa isang seminaryo, yung mga apostolic visitator, those are called delegates. Now, itong Vicar General po, yung kanyang ano is defined by it's given in the office, defined by the office yung kanyang mga functions, no? As you said, no, in law, he's equal to the bishop, but only acting, kaya siya vicar, acting on behalf of the bishop. Ang head talaga, ang kaput, yung head, capitis yung head, ang obispo. So yung titulo niya ay hindi niya, yung kanyang office is not an exercise of a title that belongs to himself. Hindi siya proper, kundi vicarius. So yun ang limitation ng kanyang power. So he exercises that power on behalf of the bishop. So there are certain things that the Vicar General can do, like for instance, he can write a decree. He can pwede siyang mag-ano ng mga dispensations. Depende sa limit ng binibigay ng law. Pwede siyang magbigay ng mga what else? Basta mga decree, no? Kasi meron siyang executive power, eh. So, pwede talaga siya. In the context of executive power, what belongs to the bishop belongs to the bishop. So, yun ang kanyang limitations.
Yan ang Vicar General. Okay. Yung economus naman, anong function ng economus?
Oo. Ang economus po, ang term na tinatawag na ang ginagamit ng canon law is finance officer. Yung pong word na economus, medyo old term ho siya. So parang medyo rehashed na, parang bago ng approach ng canon ng 1983 Code of Canon Law. A finance officer is like your treasurer. Siya yung tesorero. So ano ang ginagawa niya? The finance officer is the one who, under the direction of the bishop, administers the goods of the diocese, the temple goods of the diocese, in accordance with the budget determined by the finance council. Maganda pag-usapan ang finance officer in the context of the finance council kasi yun talaga I think that should be given emphasis right now. Dati kasi ang setup parang decision maker ang econom, but actually the econom is an administrator of the goods under the direction of the bishop, who is himself the one who makes decisions financially, and the finance council who aids the bishop in administration of temporal goods. So ibig sabihin, ang limited ang discretion noong finance officer in accordance with yung mandate ng obispo, saka yung sinasabi ng limit na binibigay ng finance council. Kaya maganda talagang ating, even in our diocese, we have to understand it that way.
There is a question from Gloria asking, may support po ba na kukuha from the government for the church obligations and expenses?
Wala po. In fact, this is one of the implications of the separations of power, that the government cannot sponsor a religion. The government cannot use its resources for religious purposes, benefiting one religious organization. So therefore, wala hong benefits financially, wala hong benefits. Kaya for instance, no, yung ang simbahan kapag gamit ng lupa that belongs to the government, hindi pwedeng i-donate ng government sa simbahan directly. because that will be a violation of the church and state separation. Yung boundary na yun, dapat hindi pa makukross yun. What can is the church buys the property from the government. Depende sa usapan. So the government cannot give the donations directly to any church to organize church or ecclesial communities or religion. So yan po yung principle na yun.
I have a question about the economist, and then si June has another question about the economy also. My question about the economist is the finance officer managing the financial goods, sabihin nating the properties and finances of the whole diocese or of the particular parishes as well? Kasi I have been for example, see in the US, in some dioceses in the US, where the finance office of the diocese manages even the parishes. So they have administration of the parishes and schools centralized. So ano ang sinasabi ng batas ng simbahan dito? What's the scope of the financial office in the diocese to administer what belongs to the diocese in general, or even the particular churches and other organizations within the diocese?
Okay. First of all, I think kailangan ma-define what do we mean by the temple goods of the entire diocese. Because in civil law, lumalabas talaga yan that there is only one sole personality. Corporation so kasi tayo, di ba? So it would appear in law that everything in the parishes is owned by the corporation.
By the diocese.
Which is the RCDN, the diocese. No? So that's in civil law. In canon law, however, ang parishes has its own juridical personality. So what we can say is yung mga goods belong to the parish are acknowledged by church law to belong to the parish itself as a juridic person. So yan ang isang bagay. Ngayon, I think it can be done in such a way the bishop allows autonomy in administration of goods of the parish, no? For as long as there is responsibility in terms of report as we have been doing, as is the case in all parishes, that we report to the diocese kasi our yung ating administration of the temporal goods. In our case, it's done every month, no? So posible ba na ang diocese mag-manage ng mga parokya? Pwede. But
Pwede.
that's going to be very heavy. Mabigat talaga yan.
Mabigat.
So mabigat talaga.
But I think, Father, this is very important learning. Kasi sometimes ang pagkaintindi ng mga tao at the parish level or even at the chapel level is aming ito hindi pwedeng pakialamanan ng diocese, which in reality is it belongs to the diocese. So the diocese can delegate administrative matter to the parish or to a particular chapel, but per se it belongs to the diocese. So you cannot say huwag niyo kaming pakialamanan dito, parokya namin ito, pera namin ito, because in reality all the properties and financial assets, they do belong to the diocese, not to the parish, right?
Unless, for instance, no, the parish has established a judicial personality in civil law that allows it to manage, for instance, a foundation, a cooperative. So meron siyang sariling bylaws or statutes and constitution that pero even then in supervision ng mga bagay na ito it also belongs to the diocesan bishop. So parang ganun.
So kasi it's a different perspective, no? Kasi minsan talaga baliktad ang pagkaintindi ng marami na parang pinakialamanan ng diocese yung aming. But in reality, it belongs to the diocese. The diocese is the legal personality, and the bishop is the sole authority when it comes to that. There is a yes. There is a question from June that is a very common question. What percentage is given to the Vatican in regards to income of our Philippine Catholic churches, or let's say churches around the world? Are we taxed to remit to the Vatican?
No. Ang akala ng iba, parang the Vatican siphons all the monies ng lahat ng mga dioceses sa buong mundo. No, that is not the case po. Actually, we only remit to the Vatican, to the central government, to the Apostolic See. Mga very lang siya, very nominal token donations. For instance, remember Luciano, may mga collections, di ba, na belongs to the St. Peter's Pence. Alam niyo yun, di ba? Belongs to the Holy Terra Sancta, to the Holy Childhood, to Propaganda Fide, to ano pa ba? Napakaliit ho ng mga In fact, ang CBCP meron din mga ganun, 'di ba? Yung mga meron collection ng St. John Marie Vianney collection na binibigay sa retirement ng mga pare. May binibigay na Philippine Mission Society envelopes, mga ganun. Yun lang po yung ating binibigay, but out of our income, we manage our own income as a corp. We have autonomy in terms of finances. So, however, yung mga apostolic vicariate, those that are that are governed in the name of the Roman Pontiff, sila ang ang Vatican po may obligation to support that those ecclesiastical circumscriptions financially. So baliktad po. So ang hindi po wala hong ganong kalaking pera ang Vatican State. Ang kanyang pera po maliit lang. Ang initial liquid talaga masyado. What it has are treasures that belongs to not only to the church but to humanity. Yung mga painting ni Michelangelo, yung mga painting sa wall ng Sistine Chapel, Vatican museums, yun ang kanyang mga lehitimong income. Napakalit lang, entrance fee sa museum. In fact, if you visit all churches in Rome, walang bayad, walang entrance fee. Ang may entrance fee lang po, hindi ang simbahan. In fact, hindi ang Sistine Chapel, but the museum that leads to the Sistine Chapel. Kasi as a rule, hindi talaga naniningil ang simbahan ng entrance fee sa pagpasok ng simbahan. So yun po.
There is a question dito ni Mayed related with that. With Friday collection, di ba remit sa Rome by the diocese? Actually, it's for the Holy Land. Sa mga Kristiyano in Holy Land ay napaka-konti and persecuted and limited. I think it's remitted to the Vatican as a way, sila ang magpapadala doon to the Holy Land. But it's not for the sake of the Vatican. It's for the sake of the Christians in the Holy Land.
Correct. That's correct.
Yes. And then another question is about Mission Sunday. Mission Sunday is for the Philippine Mission Society, di ba?
Yes.
Mission Society of the Philippines is a group of missionary society of Filipino priests. So it's not to the Vatican. Okay, so that's for the economos or the finance officer. The chancellor, anything else to say? You said it's like a secretary, communications in and out, mga circulars, mga etc. Ano pa yung when it comes to yung mga dispensation, yung mga ganon, yung mga change of correction in the books, trabaho yan ng chancellor.
This is an example of yung a delegation coming from the bishop, delegated power ito. Kasi ang chancellor itself hindi siya kagaya ng vicar general that can dispense, di ba? but it can do so only when delegated. So it's specifically it's a specific delegation. For instance, to di ba ang chancellor nag-ano ng mga change of records, partial or full reconstruction, etc., etc. So it is an exercise of a power that is delegated by the bishop to the chancellor.
So it's not, it does not belong to the chancellor.
Yes, it's proper. In fact, to
Of the
his
bishop.
vicar of the bishop himself or his vicars, episcopal
I
vicar
see.
or judicial vicar. Sorry,
I see.
vicar general or episcopal vicar.
Kaya, for example, yung correction of records, yung letter is endorsed to the bishop, not to the chancellor.
Yes, and then the chancellor signs it sa baba, saying, on behalf of the diocesan bishop, chancellor.
I see.
Hmm.
Okay. What other? So we have the vicar general, we have the chancellor, we have the finance officer. Yun sa'yo. Can you define your role? Yung judicial vicar. What is your work?
Ang ano po, ang judicial vicar is an exercise of the power of governance in one of the branches of this power. Meron po tayong legislative power, meron pong executive power, at meron pong judicial power sa simbahan. Kakaya po sa Estado. And all of these powers are held by one person, and that is the diocesan bishop. In society po, kasi we are, why? Kasi ang ating structure po is hierarchical. In society, we have all these three branches of what we call government or powers of government held by different bodies. Now we have the executive, which is the highest of the highest executive is the president. Meron kang legislative, yung sa Pilipinas, so there are two chambers, no, in one Congress, the lower and the upper chambers. Then we have, then sa chamber na, meron kang Senate President, tapos yung House Speaker. And then sa judiciary naman, you have, of course, the Supreme Court, no, being the highest interpreter of law, and we have the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Sa simbahan po, itong judicial vicar is an exercise of the judicial power. No, he exercises power in the name of the bishop. So he is the person in charge of judicial matters. So he is one of the judges. He is the head of the tribunal. Ang kanya pong ginagawa ay, of course, the bishop can exercise the judicial powers personally, but normally he exercises it through another, and that is the judicial vicar.
Pero give us a little light kung anong ginagawa, kasi pag nasa gobyerno, alam ng tao kung anong dumarating sa korte, yung may away, makapitbahay, may pinatay, may estapa, may nakulong, ganun. Sa korte ng simbahan, ano pa mga kaso dumarating? Maraming tao ay nagtaka. Puwera sa, I think yung pinakasikat na trabaho ninyo is yung mga annulment case. Yun ang alam ng lahat na may annulment case. May mga kinasal na parang gusto nila na mawalang bisa ang kanilang pakakasal kasi there was something wrong from the beginning, etc., and that's the case of annulment. It has to be proven in the court, no? Pero what other cases do you handle?
So first of all, we have a tribunal. We have a court of first instance. And then sa simbahan po, merong second instance, merong third and further instances. So ang diocese po, meron tayong court of first instance. Ito pong korte na ito ay tumatanggap ng mga kaso that pertains to jurisdiction of the church. No? For instance, meron tayong mga, there are also crimes in the church, ha? Graviora delicta, grievous crimes, no? Meron din pong mga dispute sa simbahan, for instance, between parties like an institute against another institute, or an institute like mga congregation against the bishop or the parish, no? Meron din mga ganong klaseng cases sa atin. Meron din, of course, yung penal cases na sinasabi ko nga. And of course, yung pinakamarami yung marriage cases. So meron pong ganon. So kagaya po sa korte, meron din pong formalities that are being followed na procedure in handling these cases. And ang work po ng judicial vicar ay of course to manage the tribunal, to adjudicate these cases, to assign judges, to parang ganun, to set hearings, etc., etc., to see to it that itong mga isinampang cases sa tribunal ay madesisyonan within the time allowed by law. So yun po ang trabaho.
Pag nasa korte may kaso ako, hahanap ako ng abogado na mag-represent sa akin, no? And how about dito sa judicial life within the church? Kailangan maghanap kung magsampa ka ng kaso. Halimbawa, let's say ako magsasampa ng kaso ako labang kay Father Jigs. Kailangan maghanap ako ng abogado na magre-represent sa akin, or does the diocese provide? Is like do we have like a public attorney's office na nagpro-provide sa mga walang sariling abogado, or I can present my case na hindi kailangan ng abogado? How does it work?
Okay. So word of caution, kapag kayo po ay magsasampan ng kaso sa tribunal, see to it that it is a case over which the tribunal of the church has jurisdiction. Kasi po, kapag walang jurisdiction, wala tayong competence over a case, hindi natin pwedeng
hindi ma-entertain.
Oo. Also, in terms of not only jurisdiction, but also jurisdiction of the tribunal. For instance, magsampa ka ng kaso sa Novaliches, hindi naman pala dapat dyan kasi dapat dyan sa Cubao, wala rin jurisdiction. Merong sometimes jurisdiction, the incompetence can be absolute or relative. Kadalasan po sa problem of yung maling forum, merong relative incompetence yung ang judge, no? So, ang tanong ni Father Luciano, pag nagsampa ka ba ng kaso, are you given a lawyer? Yes, no? There are certain what do you call this? It is compulsory. For instance, in penal cases, kapag ikaw ay naakusahan ng isang crime sa simbahan, for instance, those crimes are defined in the norme de gravioribus delictis, you have to have an advocate. And
ano to? For example, child abuse, ano ba ang mga kasama dito?
Ang pinaka-common kasi ngayon is yung abuse of minors and vulnerable adults, no? Ito, pero hindi lang limited doon. There are also other cases under the graviola delicta like desecration of species, violation of the seal of confession, etc., etc. So, we will discuss that in our next episode.
So, if I'm accused of a grave crime, these are crimes, no? Not only sins but crimes, no? So if I'm accused of a grave crime, I need a lawyer.
Yes, you are. The law says that you must have an advocate and procurator. It can be one person. So an advocate is like your lawyer, one who advises you, one who defends you. Yung naman procurator is one who acts on your name before the tribunal. So yung
Akong hahanap or ang diocese ang mag-assign?
The diocese has the obligation to assign kapag walang but the person also has the right to choose an advocate, a canon lawyer.
It has to be a canon lawyer, not a lawyer. Not a lawyer in civil law. It has to be a canon lawyer.
Kailangan siyang i-acknowledge ng judge as a person
valid lawyer
in the court, no? So I think if I'm not mistaken, the Pope is also allowing in certain cases, sa cases of abuse of minors, even an advocate that is also a civil lawyer.
Mhm. And
Kasi
how
pwede
about
na,
in 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 civil law, you have the accuser will be the prosecutor, no?
no,
So
we have,
someone. Oh, how
the,
about
so
in canon law?
so we also have a distinction between the actor or the petitioner, and then
Uh-huh.
the respondent or the defendant.
I
So
see.
meron pa rin ganun. Tapos meron tayong parang prosecutor, ang tawag
Uh-uh.
natin ay promoter of justice.
Uh-uh. I see. Okay. So you mean to say that in every diocese you need to have more than one canon lawyer?
Yes. In fact, if you constitute a tribunal, you'd certainly need more than one kasi you need judges, you need procurators, you need advocates, you need promoters of justice, you need notaries that sometimes should be priests or clerics, no? So, yun.
Now, paano
Hindi
yung
lang,
mga diocese na hindi maliit na diocese na wala silang canon lawyer? Anong gagawin nila? Pwede nilang
pwedeng,
i-export yung mga kaso sa ibang tribunal?
pwede rin yun. Pwede rin yung prorogation of competence, transfer of competence. Or pwede rin sila, what can be done is can appoint a judicial vicar coming from another diocese. Pwedeng canon lawyer na ibang
Mm.
diocese. Pwedeng ganon.
Oh, I see. Parang visiting, parang ganon.
Yeah, oo.
I see, I
But
see.
the office is stable. So the appointment is really a stable appointment. Pwedeng for a certain number of years, no? A period of time and then determined.
Oh, I see, I see. So that's interesting, you know. So you
Mm.
need more than one canon lawyer
Yeah,
per
yes, oo.
diocese.
Mm-mm.
Oh, I see, I see. And there is a question here. Speaking of tribunal law, gaano po katagal ang process ng annulment?
Mm. We distinguish between what we call ordinary process and what we call right now the brevior processus brevior, or the briefer process. And we're talking here of cases of marriage. No, normally, ang generally sabi ng canon law, this applies to all cases. Dapat ang sa first instance, not more than 1 year. First instance tribunal. The sentence from the time na constitute yung tribunal for the case up to the time the sentence was out, dapat within 1 year lang. Now it goes to the second instance, no, for what you call this, an affirmatory sentence, a second how do you call this, a second concurring sentence. Yung sa second instance naman, at most is 6 months. 6 months now. This time limit, this what do you call this, yung schedule applies all across all cases. Now, in the case of marriage, pag ordinary process, yan ang principle. Right now, meron ng changes with the Mitis Iudex in 2018 ba yun? I think 18. Yung changes in the procedural law regarding marriages. No? Ngayon, from the time of the constitution of the tribunal to the time of the sentence, dapat 45 days lang. Parang parang sisiw, parang itlog, magiging pwede nang ibenta sa market. Parang ganun, 45 days. Tapos hindi na kailangan ng hindi na kailangan ng confirmatory sentence. Oo, hindi na kailangan ng second instance. Hindi na kailangan. Yung first instance sentence can be final and executory unless it is appealed by the parties. So we're talking here of briefer process, ha. Not all cases can be dealt with the briefer process. Kailangan doon talaga there are certain criteria or certain indicators that the Pope has given. So may mga indicators, but the grounds are the same.
I see. A question from Lex is, what are the qualifications for a canon lawyer? Do you need first to be a cleric? Do you need to be a priest or not? And then if you want to study to be a canon lawyer, what do you study? How long does it take to be considered a lawyer?
So when you say canon lawyer, we should distinguish it from a person who studied canon law. So we should say that a canon lawyer is one who practices canon law in the tribunal of the church, in the ecclesiastical tribunal. And that has to be very clear. Not all priests who finished even a doctorate in canon law is practicing their legal
I see.
what do
So
you call
you
this,
have to be
expertise.
practicing
Oo.
to be called a canon lawyer.
Canon lawyer. Oh. So another is, well, of course, it doesn't mean that just because hindi ka naka-practice, hindi ka canon lawyer. Another is you have to be appointed in a diocese, in a tribunal for a certain specific function. You can be the judge, you can be a defender of the bond, you can be an advocate, you can be a procurator of the parties, you can be notary, etc., etc. So ganon. So I think kasi yung lawyer for me means lawyering. Talagang active ka talaga nag-engage.
So you have to be practicing in a court and to be appointed in a church court. Okay.
Ang tingin ko, para maging canon lawyer ka ngayon, meron din mga lay canon lawyers. In fact, some lay can be judges in a collegiate tribunal, like a tribunal of at least 3 judges. Basta
So
lang
to be canon lawyer, you don't need to be a priest.
No.
Okay. You
No.
need to be a Catholic though.
A Catholic. That's a good question. For me, when you are a canon lawyer and you're engaged in a tribunal, you have to make a profession of faith, which for me means that you have to be Catholic.
So you have to be
yung formula kasi,
is this for you or it is a requirement of the church? Is it a requirement of the church?
It is a requirement of the church when you work in a tribunal.
To make
there can be a
faith.
but there can be there are canon lawyers who are not Catholics, by the way, because they finished canon law. I had a student who belonged to another Christian denomination. Nag-aaral ng canon law sa UST. Bakit po? Kasi wala kaming canon law sa amin. So I was asked so we can start our own law. Parang ganun ang kanilang sinasabi. You have to finish at least licentiate in canon law, licenciado, which is equivalent to master's degree, and then you can pursue a doctorate degree. But what is danger? Ang tingin ko, Padre Luciano, ang isa sa mga bagay na kailangan ma-emphasize natin, is that a canon lawyer should keep himself updated. Kaya ako, I have the opportunity to do that because I teach. So nakapag-aaral ako nung aking napag-aralan. So na-refresh ako. So sana ganon. Kasi minsan because of too much pastoral work, nakakalimutan na yung bokasyon ng pagiging canon lawyer. Kasi nauubos na sa ano.
There is a question dito. Do you have also, saan ba? Ito. Father, canon lawyers po ba ay pasado rin sa bar exam?
No, the bar examination. So what we know as bar exams is a requirement in civil law. They have to have a certain bar, have to pass a bar. Para for them to hindi ka nakaabot sa bar, hindi ka magiging licensed. No? Ang atin naman, we have a different way of what do you call this, of examination of our students in canon law. We have what we call a comprehensive examinations. We have to pass a thesis in licentiate or a dissertation in doctorate studies for the advancement of canon law. So parang ganon. So wala tayong bar exams kasi di naman na kailangan sa simbahan yon. Pero meron tayong mga ways of setting a quote-unquote a bar, a standard for aspiring canon lawyers.
And we have a question from MJ. I wanted to get married in Catholic, but my husband is married in a Christian church. despite that the ex-wife is an atheist? Do we still need to process it under tribunal?
This is very interesting.
The formerly married person is married in a Christian church to an atheist.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, ano, kasi yung marriage yung marriage no na between between baptized, even though they are not Catholics, are sacramental marriage. And for us, it is indissoluble. Yung marriage between two Catholics are called not just sacramental marriage, but also canonical marriage. Also indissoluble. Ngayon, ang case ni MJ, sabi niya, ang husband niya married in the Christian church. So it was I presume, no, na yung wife niya is atheists, but only in terms of hindi maybe itong tanong na to needs to be clarified. Yun bang babae, siya ba ay nabinyagan before or hindi? Siya ba atheist in practice or talagang wala siyang baptism? Because if she had been baptized before, she's baptized even if it's not Catholic, and then married in the church. So yung kanilang kasal, kahit na outside of the Catholic Church, is indissoluble. Sacramental marriage yun. Because of it is between two persons of Christian faith or baptized persons. Now, ganito, kahit hindi yan siya canonical marriage, to declare the nullity of this marriage, medyo mas mahirap. Kasi it has to be declared null in the tribunal of that ecclesial community. Halimbawa, may Protestant, halimbawa, may sariling tribunal that declares nullity of marriages. Doon yun ay naasikaso. At the same time, it has to be declared by the Catholic tribunal as null and void ab initio. Kasi nga, it is indissoluble. And for us to, so parang ganun, medyo complicated MJ ang case, no? So, it's difficult, but it can be done. Pwede naman talaga kayo makasal sa simbahang Katoliko later on. Basta lang fulfilling all this procedural requirements to have the marriage declared null and void from the beginning.
Okay. Well, medyo oras na, no? So, hindi pa tayo umabot sa lahat ng council eh.
Hindi pa natin napag-usapan yung ating topic actually.
Nasa obispado pala tayo. We did not talk about consultores, presbyteral council, finance council, pastoral council. Yan ang mga susunod na Martes, sabihin natin, to be more susunod.
Actually, ang maganda talaga na nagtatanong na pag-uusapan, kesa naman we just breeze through everything and then parang yung ating mga tanong natin
correct. Correct. Mas maganda na pag-uusapan. So at least malinaw po yung ating yung function na encounter sa lahat ng diocese, yung chancellor, yung finance officer, yung vicar general, at saka yung judicial vicar. Then siguro basically na pag-usapan ng lahat. Siguro next Tuesday we will start for those extra that we have in the Obispado of Novaliches para yung mga taga Novaliches maintindihan kung bakit meron tayong pastoral office, why do we have a Caritas office, and what do we have, the archives, the catechetical office. So just to give you a picture of the real organizational structure ng Novaliches, which is different from other dioceses. But itong mga nabanggit nating, every diocese of the world has a chancellor, a finance officer, a vicar general, and a judicial vicar. Itong apat na ito, mandated by law. Tama?
Yeah.
From the four, two needs to be clerics, priest, yung vicar general, at saka yung judicial vicar. Tama?
Episcopal vicar, vicar general, judicial vicar.
And then the other two can be lay or religious. Yung chancellor can be lay or religious. And then yung, what is the other one? Yung finance officer can be a lay or a religious. Okay, wow, very good. Thank you, Father. We learned so much, and we will start talking about the what we call consultores, the College of Consultors in the diocese, and then the Presbyteral Council, the Finance Council, and the Pastoral Council of the diocese. All right. Thank you, Father Jigs, for your time. Salamat. And salamat sa inyong lahat for your questions. See you again next week. God bless
See
po.
you.
See you.
See you.